Welcome back to the To Be Better podcast. Before we get into the intro, we have a little bit of a disclaimer that we need you to hear.
We are not the experts of your life. You are.
We believe that most relationships can be saved. However, both parties have to want it, and both parties have to be willing to do the work.
So we speak in generalizations. If it applies to 90% of the population, and you're part of the 10% that it doesn't, it can be adapted to fit the narrative you're going with.
And it's up to you to make that adaptation. It's not up to us to cater to every single living being on the planet. We just want to get the information out there, and you can make it applicable to your life as you see fit.
So whether you decide to stay or decide to leave, you still have to make the changes that are necessary to grow.
If you fail to do the work, you're going to fail in your next relationship. So why not do the work now before quitting?
All right, so in emailing us, you are asking us for our unbiased, unfiltered opinions. If you're not ready to hear our opinions, do not email us.
And there are certain topics that we will not discuss on this podcast, such as domestic violence, SA, or other assaults and addiction.
Or children being abused.
Speaking of the emails, if you guys are going to send us an email, please be as detailed as possible. Take a second to proofread what you have sent and make sure that you have punctuation, because if you have one long paragraph that is a run-on sentence and it is a difficult thing for us to read, we're not going to sit down and retype your email just for us to be able to read it on the podcast. It will get moved into a rejected folder and we will never see it. And last but not least, if you're not interested in having your email read on our podcast, do not submit an email. We do not do direct emailing answers. It is a scratch our back. We scratch yours. You send email for our content. We give you the opinions that you're asking for. And if you would like to have your email submitted, you can send it to tobebetterco@gmail.com. The number 2bebetterco@gmail.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, adults of all ages, welcome to the sideshow.
And we are back. Doing a book reading from Never Split the Difference.
Correct.
So this is what, a sideshow? What are we going to call these from now on? We've got to give these a name because it's so confusing. The podcast, the sideshow, the side piece. Shouldn't it be like the podcast, the breakdown, the side piece? I don't even like the name of the side piece anymore.
Really?
Yeah, it was funny. Like, it was funny when we did it because it was a
Okay.
play on, like, we're
Right.
cheating on the podcast by not doing emails and having a conversation. And it was clever,
Right.
but it doesn't feel like...
Meaningful?
No, it really doesn't. Because it should have more seriousness to it, I guess.
Okay.
And I don't know, like, calling it the book breakdown is clever because we are doing book breakdowns, but it doesn't feel like... I feel like I need to bring that light down a little bit. I'm not going to do it right now, but on the next one, I'm going to have to adjust the light. We're still trying to figure this out. So we have multiple cameras set up in here, and we're trying to do different things, and the light sources are the last thorn in my side.
Yeah.
So
What about opinion pieces?
for the side piece, yeah. The names of them aren't really relevant. In reality, we could not call them anything, and it could all just be the podcast and just have conversation pieces based off of the podcast. But for me, I like organizing and labeling things, and if I know that it's a sideshow, I can put it under the sideshow on the playlist, and people can go to it. And if it's a side piece, then I know that it's going to be an hour to an hour and a half of conversation, and it's going on to the side piece playlist, and it just keeps everything nice and organized, keeps everything nice and tidy. And I need that. I need the organization.
Yeah, me too. I get that. I'm going to have to put some thought into that now.
Yeah, you guys leave it in the comments. If you're watching this on YouTube, tell us what you think we should name the other two shows. Worst comes to worst, we won't listen to you. Best case scenario, somebody comes up with a banger, and we're like, yes, that's it.
I love moments like that.
Me too. Me too.
They're really dope. Just want to get into it?
Yeah, I don't really have anything to talk about. I don't want to burn myself out today either, knowing that we're doing a live stream tonight. So
Okay.
this is just one of those things that we can have a discussion about and then move on.
Do we have the live stream version of this put somewhere?
It is on the lives. Yeah, it'll be created on a playlist when this one gets uploaded.
Okay, dope.
So we'll be able to, people can just jump right into it and look at it.
So this is the second half of the first chapter.
Okay.
We did the first half of the chapter just to see how well it went with everybody, and people liked it. So if you haven't seen the first one, this was me reading Never Split the Difference, and just me writing down thoughts I had while reading it that can be applied to not just romantic relationships, but pretty much any relationship in your life.
Okay, so before we jump into that, you want to explain to them what that book is in case they stumble across this video first?
So Never Split the Difference is written by Chris Voss, who is a former FBI hostage negotiator.
Okay.
And if I'm recalling correct, he was like the lead guy for a while. And he was dealing with situations of extreme, like terrorists, kidnappings, mass shootings, that kind of shit. It's a pretty dope book, and it's not geared towards relationships at all.
But you are
We're
taking
making it.
what he's saying and trying to shift it into that.
Yes.
Okay.
He does say that all of this can be applied to relationships. What I'm getting from it so far is more of, I mean, I'm only the first chapter in, so a lot of it has been negotiation hostage situation. So I don't know what the rest of the book is, but so far I haven't seen anything.
That's specific to relationships.
Right. So this is a direct quote from the book. He said, 2 hostages had managed to convince... Oh, I practiced this in my mind. It's Giffe. Well, the dude who was holding them hostage to let them go on a tarmac in Florida because they had to stop to refuel. And the hostages, I discussed this in the prior video, was his estranged wife and I believe the pilot. And the FBI negotiated with him and you're like, well, you're not going to make it to wherever you're trying to go on just one tank. So you're going to have to stop in Florida refuel before you head off into the Pacific, wherever he's going. And he was like, all right, you're right. I'm going to have to stop because I don't want to die. So he gets to the tarmac and he agrees to let the hostages go. He goes on to say that, but the agents had gotten impatient and shut out the engine, and that pushed him to the nuclear option. So they came to an agreement of, you're going to let the hostages go. We're going to let you take the plane. Nobody's going to die today.
Right.
And he was on board with it. It was just taking him longer to get to the, okay, it's happening. People in a high stress, high emotional situation aren't thinking clearly. So instead of just having one path of thought, they're having 5 million paths of thought that they're trying to follow at one time while interacting with you.
Right.
Because the FBI became impatient and shut out the engines, that's just self-sabotage. So in a relationship, when you are having a conversation, and it might take 6 hours to work through something, if you're continuously looking at your watch and you're like, okay, this is taking too long, I have other shit I need to go to. When your relationship is at a emotional stress, not an emotional stress, is in a...
Emotional standstill?
Yes.
Okay.
And your partner is hearing you, but they're still kind of being defensive and not really backing down, but there's progress. If you go, well, fuck this, clearly you don't want to talk to me, I'm over it, and walk away, you just destroyed all the progress you were making.
Right.
And more than likely, you will not get the end result that you're searching for. All that makes sense?
Yep.
Dope. Anything you want to say to that?
Yeah, don't take your wife and your ex-estranged wife and a pilot hostage. And if you do, and you're flying the plane, risk it for the biscuit and just go to your final destination.
Okay.
Because if you land, they're going to shoot out the plane. And then you're going to turn around and control,
Right.
delete yourself. So if the risk is there of you doing that, you might as well try to just get to Cuba or wherever it is that you're going. Because in reality, where he landed in Florida to getting to Cuba is less than 100 miles.
Yeah.
He should have just risked it for the biscuit. I would have. Pilot would have been like, we're putting the plane down. I'd be like, the fuck you are.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't go to Cuba either. I have I'm allergic to communism. Which is not my thing.
Maybe that's why your eyes itch.
Yeah, because I knew we were going to be talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me itchy and makes my skin crawl and makes me want to peel my fucking face off.
Having a very visceral reaction to the imagery of that.
Yeah.
I get it, though. Sometimes I wish I could just unzip it.
Yeah. We did talk about that on the first part of this, though.
That part?
Yep.
Did we?
Yep. That's how he ended.
Huh. Well, might have to cut all that out.
No, that was the on the last episode. Like they do on TV, like when you're binge watching shit previously on.
That's smart. I should have said that at the
You
beginning.
should have, but you didn't know that,
No.
Yeah.
You really are you complete me. Next point. What is one of the things that separates us from animals, like four-legged creatures, insects?
We have opposable thumbs.
Correct. What else?
Our ability to love
Yes.
and our ability to communicate on a higher level, not just making whale sounds or
Yes.
dolphin sounds.
So my answer to that question was being able to react logically and not instinctively.
Yeah, I mean, that's way better than my 3 answers.
No, your 3 answers were good. I just wanted to see what you would
Yeah.
say because I had that thought from reading and I was like, I wonder what he thinks about that.
I also want to be clear that I do believe that animals have the ability to love. I just don't believe that it's the same as us.
Right.
Because animals will love you unconditionally. People don't.
Yeah.
It's fucking conditional with people.
So our emotional brain is animalistic, unreliable, and irrational. So it can be overcome with logical thinking. I wrote it down somewhere else. That triggered another thought for me. So when you guys are in a super tense moment and you guys are arguing, maybe even screaming at each other, and you're just calling each other names and being super degrading, you need to stop and take a second and recognize that you are acting purely on instinct, which is anger, or maybe betrayal or frustration. Having that deep breath and saying, wait a minute, and just like, we need to be quiet for a second. You both just sit there for a minute and think about what you just said. That will kick back your logical brain thinking. Make sense? Okay. This is really me just working through my thoughts as I'm reading this book. So
It's fine.
if it doesn't make sense, I need to know.
And if it doesn't make sense, we're going to use it anyways.
Okay.
So the idea of taking a breath, we've talked about that since the
Yeah.
beginning of this.
I think my main point of that, though, is that when people react out of anger and frustration, they're really acting just purely out of instinct.
Right. Well, I mean, that is what a reaction is. It is an instinctive.
At some point in here, I wrote down,
Don't spoil it.
okay,
Unless we're going to a commercial break, and then I'm going to go get some Claritin. And you can be like, coming up soon on To Be Better. Never split the difference. Peaches says. Blah, 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 blah.
that's way too much for me right
Okay.
now. Did you know that someone can have 70,000 thoughts every day?
I did not.
That's a lot of thoughts.
You should have made up a number that's way wrong so that people could have argued about it in the comment section. That's not true.
Oh, man.
It would have driven the algorithm.
Yeah. Conflict.
I've done that.
Really? You've said something wrong knowing it's wrong just to...
On TikTok, I do it all the time.
Ooh, so sneaky.
I don't give a shit about TikTok.
Right.
If I say something incorrect on the podcast, I will correct it on the YouTube video.
Right.
Doesn't help anybody that's listening to the pod, but when they're watching it on YouTube, there's corrections, text overlays all the time on the videos.
Yeah.
Because if I say something, I will fact check myself while I'm editing and make sure that it's correct. Because I already look like a dumbass. I don't want to be a dumbass.
Right.
So
I feel that.
these chairs are not as comfortable as the black ones.
No, I don't think we haven't broken them in yet.
It's the back of them. They're not as like cushy. If this becomes the full-time podcast room, these chairs may end up getting swapped for the other ones, especially since the legs on this one's broken.
So what would we do?
Well, this one would get thrown out because it's broken.
Okay. Could I use this as like my little chair for my greenery area where I keep my plants?
I don't care what we do, and that's if we change things out because
Right.
I
I know, just a submission.
have to go take some Claritin.
Okay. So talking about being an emotional mind, being animalistic and instinctive, I wrote down the philosophy behind that.
Okay.
So 1, you have to separate their emotion or yours from the problem. Do not get wrapped up in their argument or what they are asking for. Focus on why they are asking for it so you can get to the root of what they want. An example is, I wish you didn't work so much would equal, I miss you.
Right.
I wish you were home more. Someone complaining about you always being on video games. It's not that you're playing the video game. You could be going golfing. It's the fact that you're taking that time away from the person.
Right.
You have to work in a calm manner to brainstorm win-win scenarios and establish a mutually agreed upon standards to avoid it again.
So you're saying that words need to be clearly defined. You need to be able to repeat things back to each other and think in a logic mindset instead of being an emotional mind arguing moot points.
Correct. And they have to be agreed upon. So if you don't agree, you have to say that to avoid massive conflict in the future because you said you were okay with it when you really weren't and your partner had no idea. Feeling is a form of thinking.
I disagree with that.
Why?
Because feeling is an emotional mindset. And I think that when you are an emotional mindset, you are more reactive and less responsive.
Okay.
So I disagree with that. I mean, he's an FBI fucking interrogator or hostage negotiator. I'm sure he knows better than I do, but I disagree with that.
Okay. So to elaborate on that, just go for why it is a form of thinking. Emotions start as sensations, and sensations are touch, sight, hearing, smell, and taste. So it starts as sensations in the bodies, feelings that are generated from our thoughts about these emotions. So if you weren't in a relationship and you hear from your friend that my cousin got cheated on, you'd be like, oh, damn, that sucks. But you don't feel any reaction to that because there's no emotion behind it, right?
Okay.
If you were to see texts in your own relationship of them cheating on you, then you would have that switch to the animalistic, instinctive reaction to it. That's where the sensation comes in of actually seeing the text and having the emotion behind it versus
Right.
hearing that they got cheated on and they found it through text messages.
Right. Well, in those scenarios, somebody else getting cheated on doesn't have anything to do with me.
Right.
So there would be no emotional investment on my behalf.
Right.
So in a scenario where I saw something that was inappropriate, my emotional investment in you is where the dilemma would come from.
Okay.
I just believe that feelings are a reactive thing.
Right.
It's why people get offended by shit. Like they get in their feelings and they just don't know how to process their shit until they get out of that feeling and into their logic mind and can work through things. Like I said, dude knows his shit better than I do. It's just my perspective.
My next point, there are more than 150 cognitive biases.
Okay.
A cognitive bias is a systematic thought process caused by the tendency of the human brain to simplify information processing through a filter of personal experience and preferences. What are your thoughts on that before I keep going?
I don't have any.
Okay. So the brain takes in information. The information is taken in through your eyes, and then from your eyes to your brain, there's a little lens or a filter. And through that filter is your personal experiences, things that you've seen happen in your family, hearing your mom say all the time, fuck all men. All of that is a bias on the reality of what you're taking in.
Okay.
So you never really see reality for what it is at a first initial interaction with it.
Right. Okay. Which is why we all perceive our universe as different than every other person on the planet.
Correct.
Through lived experiences, expectations,
Yes.
behavioral traits. That makes a ton of sense. So there you go, guys. We've been saying that shit for months.
It is called a cognitive bias.
And now we know what it's called, so we can just stop saying that your perception is your reality.
And there's already known at least 150 of them. 150 known cognitive biases. And that's all through study in different people and ones that are similar. But everybody's filter will be different because it's fine-tuned to your own personal experiences.
Right.
So you have to do research.
Makes a lot of sense.
And it is not a blanket like gaslighting.
Oh, wait, what? It's science?
It's
And
science.
it's narrowed down and detailed and not a blanket statement? Wild.
So there is a book called Thinking Fast and Slow. It's mentioned in Never Split the Difference. And in that book, the author describes how we have a system 1 and a system 2 processing of our brain. System 1 is the animal mind. It's fast, instinctive, and emotional. System 2 is the slow, deliberate, and logical thinking. System 1 is far more influential, and it guides our rational thoughts. And next to that, I put reasoning in a question mark. So if it guides our rational thoughts, if we have a thought of, he's cheating on me, so I'm going to go cheat on him, your system 1 is going to rationalize that being okay. When you know it's not, but because you have your emotions out of control and you don't know how to self-regulate, your system 1 is going to be like, yeah, go do it.
Which is why I said what I said earlier about your feelings being emotional
Yeah.
thought processes. And they should call it irrational thinking. Because if you can justify doing eye for an eye shit, that is irrational.
It is.
Because in a calm state of mind, you don't do that. In a calm state of mind, you're like, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
And you walk away.
So system 1 is the spring that feeds the river of system 2. So they're connected, but one of them has more influence over the other. So system 1 works through communication. System 1, through communication with your partner, you will understand how theirs works. And you have to communicate with them. So when you're in an argument and you start to feel frustrated, instead of just screaming at them, say, hang on, I'm starting to feel something. I need to figure out what's going on so I don't start saying nasty things to you because I don't want to be that person.
Right.
And then you can ask them, okay, well, what did I say or do to make you feel that way? Or to cause you to feel that way? Or lead you to the thought process that you just had? That is how you work through each other's system 1 to influence the system 2 to resolve arguments or disagreements faster. Makes sense?
Yep.
So in the book, he says hostage negotiations were anything but rational problem-solving situations. So this is not a business meeting where you're walking in and saying, I need $200,000 for 10%, whatever. That is a very logical-based conversation. It is two people knowing what they want, and to get to the end goal, they're going to have to negotiate, and then they're going to have to settle on something that they're both happy with.
Okay.
That's exactly what you do in relationships.
Right. Should be doing that in relationships.
Yes. When you seek to avert a loss, like losing your point or losing the argument, instead of an equal gain, you are holding your significant other emotionally hostage.
You want to elaborate on that one?
Well, you look like you were processing and getting ready to say something.
I'm so it's not like I am struggling with this. I've read this book a lot. Like
Okay.
I've gone all the way through it, but trying to take it from what he's actually talking about to apply it to relationships, some of it is very no duh, and some of it's going right over my head.
What do you mean? Like that point?
Some of it. I mean, some of the other things that you said, just right over.
Okay.
I'm trying to keep up. I'm just not as smart as everybody thinks I am.
Am I going too fast?
Nope.
Okay. So when you seek to avert a loss, like I said, where you are seeking to not lose your argument, or if they get the final say, you are going to have to give up something while they gain.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to take that back. I'm going to rephrase what I said. It's not that I'm dumb, because I am able to keep up. I'm having a hard time focusing.
Okay.
And it's because my left eyeball is itching like you would not fucking believe right now.
Do you want me to get like an ice pack?
No, it's just itching. It's because of the pollen outside. Like I don't know. Like anyways, I took a Zyrtec. It'll be fine in like 45 minutes, but it takes time for that shit to work through your system.
Do you want to wait until it's...
In that whole thing right there, when you have two people that are in an argument, one of you is going to have to secede to the other. New patron. That secession or seceding to the other person's argument is not always a loss. Sometimes there's an understanding that's to be had. Sometimes there's new information that you didn't have otherwise that you can learn from. But if you look at it as a loss, you both lose because you're in a relationship. It's not the two of you versus each other anymore. It's the two of you versus the problem trying to resolve things. And if you're in a position where you're not willing to admit your shortcoming, you're never going to grow, and you're not going to actually get resolution from what's happening in the moment. And if you are just agreeing to get your person to shut up,
Right.
same problem.
So when you do that, when you seek to avert a loss instead of an equal gain, you're holding your significant other emotionally hostage. So when you're not willing to resolve the situation or look for resolution, you really just want to argue and bicker and feel like the big bitch of the house or the big dog of the house, and you don't care about how they feel afterwards, you are really just holding them emotionally hostage. They're not able to freely speak to you. They can't explain how they're feeling. They can't tell you their perspective. They really just have to bow down to you and say, I'm sorry. And that's a problem.
Yeah, it's a very unhealthy way to live.
When someone is angry, triggered, or bitter, and they feel like they're being taken advantage of in the relationship, or they feel like they are underappreciated or not appreciated at all for anything they do, they're in an emotional mindset. You must focus on bringing them back to logical thinking gently. If you are to match their irrationality or match their anger, there will be no resolution. You have to approach it like a frightened dog who is attacking, doing to instinct with aggression. So if there's been a dog that's been abused its whole life, and out of instinct to protect itself, it starts lashing out, you don't berate that dog for trying to protect itself. You handle it gently. You talk quietly. You stand back, you don't try to overcrowd, and you wait for them to calm down a little bit, and you go a little bit forward. And you're still reassuring, you're posing yourself as a non-threat. Why would you not do that in a relationship with the person you claim to love?
Is that a rhetorical question, or do you want me to actually answer that?
Go ahead and answer that.
Because people don't love their partner their entire time that they're in their relationships. Because some days you like your person and you don't love them. And some days you don't remember that, like, why you love them. And the longer you're with someone and the longer you're in the roommate phase, the harder it is to look at that person and remember exactly why you married them. Because people get into their own cycle of bullshit and you get comfortable and you get to the point where you are no longer willing to make the sacrifices necessary to make somebody happy. So you get shitty and you expect them to just cater to you or to not make your life miserable. because you guys are no longer working on happiness. Love is work. It takes a lot of fucking effort to make sure that you are in love still, because you can have love for somebody and not be in love with them. And when you have that love and not be in love, it's why people who have family members get into it so much. They love each other. They'll do anything for each other, but they have no problems going outside and fist fighting at Thanksgiving because somebody said something wrong about a political figure. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things that I think that people get caught up in the day-to-day and forget why they're doing it.
I agree with that.
That's my answer to your question.
All right. So emotions and emotional intelligence are the key to resolving tension in arguments. So if you don't understand how your own emotions work, do not get in a relationship with somebody else. You are going to bring a ton of unresolved issues, unresolved trauma, things that you don't even know are a problem yet, into their world. You're going to disrupt their peace. And it's going to be like the first few months, first few years, if you guys are just dating, are going to be great. And then you're going to move in together and they're going to start to see the things that you hid, the things that you masked, the things that you were like, they are not going to be attracted to me if I do this.
Right.
They're eventually going to see it, and it's going to cause a lot of issues.
Right.
Being able to understand your own emotions, and you get with somebody else who is working on theirs and they're able to do the same and they're trying, you guys are going to have less arguments, less tension, less moments of, it's not hatred, but that growing of why am I here?
Right. Falls back into what I said.
Yeah.
Because how many people are in that roommate phase that are not in love, that wake up and go to work, and while they're at work think to themselves, like, you know what, I could leave.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point in doing this anymore? Like, we're not in love. She hasn't touched me in months. Like, she's always got a headache. She's always tired. There's always excuses. Why am I doing this? Why am I killing myself to provide for a family that doesn't love me? Like, that's very much, it all ties right in.
So if you don't know your emotions, you don't understand your emotions, you need to start figuring them out.
Yep.
If you're already in a relationship and they are telling you that you are always overly emotional, or it's the same argument every single night, or every morning they wake up and they know there's going to be an issue with you, that is a big key that you have no idea what's going inside your own mind. You have to sit down, you have to figure out what's going on, and everything else in your life is going to fall into place once you start getting organized. People want to be understood, validated, and accepted. When someone feels they are being heard, they are more likely to think before they speak. What?
People should always think before they speak.
Right. Yes, I agree. There are people who don't recognize that they're not articulating themselves properly, or they're... And I'm not talking about people who are cussing and yelling and screaming and just berating. You can control that. You know when you're getting ready to say something foul to somebody. When I wrote down they're more likely to think before they speak, I mean in a way that is articulate. It's not just a bunch of I feel this and I feel that and this is the reason. It's just a bunch of incoherent babble of spew onto somebody who has no idea what's going on.
Right.
So when you're like, okay, calm down so I can understand what you're going through, that gives them that validation of, okay, they're actually listening. So they're going to slow down a little bit and they're going to be able to articulate what is happening better. And the more that you show that you're there listening, the easier it's going to get for them to actually tell you, okay, this is the issue. And if they want a resolution, they're going to ask you for help. Hopefully. So they're going to put more thought in clarifying their thoughts and feelings, and they will become less defensive and argumentative and more willing to understand other POVs. So say two people are having an argument. He has planned for 2 weeks to go to a baseball game with his buddies and his brother. Day of, girlfriend goes through something at work and she was like, I want you to stay home. And he was like, okay, well, we've planned for this for 2 weeks. It's non-refundable. It's somebody's birthday, whatever's going on. And instead of just going, I understand that you've planned for this. I don't know if I can come with you or if you can leave the game a little bit early. I really need some us time. Instead of saying that and just going, you care about them more than me. You never care about how I feel. Like, I don't matter to you. It's clear I'm not a priority. That is shutting down any opportunity to hear his perspective, what's going on, or even giving the option to rethink of, you know what, okay, maybe I need to hear her point of view on this. Did it all make sense?
My brain went somewhere else, though.
Where?
In the scenario that you just gave, where a man has plans for weeks and the woman's like, I would rather you stay home with me because I need some quality time with you. I see that as a way to get him to just not go out and interact.
Right.
I would think that in that scenario, the better option would be to make a date night. I know that you've got plans tonight. Today's Wednesday. We don't have anything going on Friday after you get off of work. I would like a date night.
Yeah.
I need quality time with you. He doesn't have to, and it doesn't have to remove him from his plans.
Right.
It doesn't have to make him miss a birthday party or whatever the case is. They can have an actual conversation about it and like plan for something versus having a meltdown. That comes down to perception though, because when I hear that, I go to a manipulative woman who doesn't want the dude to go out and have fun versus her actually really wanting to spend quality time. Because if that was the case, she could have done it yesterday. Why are you wanting that now all of a sudden, not yesterday or the day before or for a Friday? Like,
Right.
I don't know.
I feel like I didn't articulate myself properly with that.
No.
Because
you did, but my brain went to manipulation.
Okay.
That's a cognitive bias.
Yeah.
I'm paying attention.
Okay.
I just want to scrape my fucking eyeball out with a spoon.
Yeah. I can tell you're uncomfortable.
And it's the more I mess with it, the worse it is. It's like,
That's why I think you should put something cold on it.
nope.
Just going to deal with it.
I am. It's gotten better, but it still itches.
You're so hardened.
I'm not. I just am stubborn. I'm just stubborn.
I agree that a date night should be planned. You know, if he's going out and she goes, I really want you to come home. And he goes, well, babe, we've been planning this for 2 weeks. And before he can even continue on with the sentence, she interjects and go, I'm never a fucking priority to you. That's her shutting down any other perspective that she could receive.
Right.
Because she's in her feelings.
Yep. You do realize that also can tie back into that David Data conversation that we had yesterday on the gaslighting episode, right? Because that becomes her truth.
Oh, yeah. Is that what he means by your truth? Her truth?
Oh, yeah, because that's her reality. She views that situation as that. It wasn't a logical conversation. She got all in her feelings and fell the fuck apart and now wants to argue and fight because he's not giving her what she needs emotionally in the moment. I actually found another paragraph of that yesterday and put it on the video. So for those of you who listen to the Side Piece episode 10 gaslighting and you're listening to it, you're actually missing context because it's on the YouTube video. Just one more reason to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, why not? You should hit the notification bell, thumbs up, like button, all that fun stuff. Right?
You're going super quick.
I know,
with it.
because I fucking hate doing it. You guys know YouTube well enough that I shouldn't have to tell you this. If you find value in what we're doing, do the thing.
Do it.
Do it. Do it.
Listening is one of the most active things you can do as a significant other.
Nope. Cardio.
Oh my gosh.
Sexy time cardio is the most active thing that you can do as a couple. You get up, you're covered in sweat, you can't breathe, you can't walk. It's a great time.
Accurate.
Listening is the most passive active thing that you can do in a relationship because it doesn't take any work.
It does.
It doesn't.
It does.
I'm not listening anymore.
There are really times where, like, in our morning walks, when we're doing cardio and you're just thinking out loud, I really have to, like, bitch focus.
Okay. Do you know why that is? Because I psychobabble.
No, it's...
And it is.
No, my mind wanders. It's because I can't read what you're saying to me. Really, I have a hard time listening and retaining shit.
So you're saying I need subtitles?
Yeah.
Fuck. I'm going to look real dorky walking through the woods wearing a fucking LED sign with scrolling letters on it.
We can put it on your back.
It would fit.
It would. Got a fucking billboard back there. I don't remember what I was saying. I'm thinking about the billboard.
Listening is the most active thing that you can do in a relationship.
It's fucking active for me. Like, oh my gosh, yesterday at our son's progress update of how he's doing, like they just did the end of year testing and she's running through everything and she's just pointing at a chart and there's nothing for me to read. I'm like, pay attention to what she's saying. This is about your child. You have to pay attention to what she's saying. Don't think about dinner. Don't think about the car. The geckos are fine. Focus on what she's saying about your child. It's hard. I really just have to active listen.
Yeah.
So it is one of the most active things that people can do. I envy the fact that you can just listen and retain. It's like a superpower to me.
It's pretty dope because I can multitask. And as long as I'm hearing it, I'm able. I mean, we do it all the time. You see it all the time.
You do it all the time. Yeah.
It's just the way that my brain works. If I have to stop and read something, I have to get rid of all distractions.
That's what I have to do.
I have to zone the fuck in on it to really understand what's going on.
That's what I have to do when I listen.
Yeah. Well, then I'm winning in this scenario.
Fuck you. Unnecessary.
Green flag. Winning. Checkered flag.
You cock. I set that checkered flag on fire and it's imaginary. Vinny. Did you just wink at me?
I did, and nobody could see it because my head was turned. It feels like I have fiberglass in my eye. That's the itch I feel.
That makes me uncomfortable. Sorry.
I am uncomfortable.
Do you remember what we were saying?
Nope.
All
Active
right.
listening.
To have a healthy relationship with anybody in your life, you need to know how to manage conflict without trying to get a knockout. This isn't Mortal Kombat. I just try to think of another game off the fly that's super calm and relaxing, and I can't think of one because they're all extremely violent.
Did you just say Mortal Kombat was calm and relaxing?
No, I said that you don't have to get a knockout like Mortal Kombat. Like, this isn't Mortal Kombat.
Right.
This is, I don't know, Endless Ocean. That was a pretty calming game for me.
I don't video game. I played Mortal Kombat when I was younger.
Yeah, I just button mashed.
And Street Fighter. I was pretty good at Street Fighter.
I didn't play Street Fighter.
At one point, I had like almost all of the main characters, massive, like all their specials and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't have the finish him shit like Mortal Kombat did. That was 900 fucking buttons in a rota.
So if you don't know how to manage conflict, you should probably go to YouTube, find a channel, something like To Be Better, to learn how to manage conflict, and your relationships will slowly improve in your life.
If you implement it, just watching it's not going to do any good.
Right, you do have to implement it, and there's going to be a lot of scary first steps, and people are going to walk away from your life because a lot of people don't like it when you're like, you're no longer going to walk on me.
Crazy how that works.
Yeah. The first step to have healthy disruptions, which I like to think that's what we have, healthy disruptions.
I do refer to them as disruptions.
Yeah.
I've never called them a healthy disruption, but I do refer to them as a disruption.
You have to overcome your fear of conflict. So avoiding it until it bottles up and you have 3 or 4 things that are really pissing you off about your significant other, and then all of a sudden they forget to take the trash out and you unload on them.
Right.
That is not healthy.
No.
You don't have to enjoy it. You have to learn how to navigate it. Nobody enjoys having conflict. Nobody goes, oh boy, we're in conflict. Hell yeah, let's sit down and figure this shit out and just be angry at each other for about 15 minutes.
No, they really don't.
Nobody enjoys doing it, but you do have to learn to navigate it if you want to have it in the healthiest way possible. And if your partner's not on board with that, then maybe they're not the one you're supposed to be with.
Yeah.
Because somebody who truly loves you would want to sit down and work through disruptions like that in a very peaceful, calm manner instead of exploding and calling you names and degrading you, making you feel like you're the problem and they're perfect.
I think that also goes back that you need to understand that goes back to the not being in love thing.
Yeah.
You know, because when you're in love, you treat your person differently. Mm-hmm. So if you're in that position where you are constantly arguing and screaming and yelling and you are being berated, you're not in love anymore. Like, or they're not in love. Like, you need to get back to that intimacy and back to that love because you treat people differently that you're in love with.
Correct.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. That was just the second half of the first chapter. The second chapter is going to be a longer one.
Okay. Yeah, we should do the full chapter.
I know. That's what we're going to do going forward.
Okay. Yeah, because this one's only like 40 minutes.
Right. Well, we did the first half on a live stream to see if we even wanted to do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. We did, didn't we? Well, you guys get a short one today.
Yeah, little short boy.
It just means that my editing time will be quick. All right, guys. With that being said, we'll see you on the next one.
Bye, guys.